This time at St Blazey Model World, we're going to have a look at that truck. So if you're a regular to this channel and you've watched my video intros, you'll be familiar with this guy. This is a Tamiya 1/14 scale remote control truck. So I guess now it's time to have a bit of a closer look at the nitty gritty of this thing and see just what's involved. As this is a channel that is looking at modelling in general, I thought it'd be quite nice to take you through this. I've had this kit a few years, and what you get when you buy one of these is a bare bones type of kit. You get enough parts to build a truck that will move, but you then have to think about the add-ons, and that is where the costs start rolling in really. You need to think about a remote control set, a transponder, a receiver, whether or not you're going to go with sound and lights as I have done, whether or not you're going to introduce extra elements such as a crawler gearbox for use in arenas. There are all sorts of considerations, but I thought it would be nice to take you through a brief tour of this model just so that you can see what's involved in modelling in the extreme. I don't really get too much involved with model airplanes or model boats on the remote control side, but the remote control trucks is one of my particular likes, and I'll take you through this model bit by bit. I suppose a good place to start is with the size of this model. It's 1/14 scale. In other words, if you blew it up 14 times, it would be the size of the real thing. So just how big is it? Well, I've laid a ruler here so that we can get an idea, and you can see that it's 20 inches long. Looking at the width, it's getting on for 8 inches wide. So now we'll look at the height. This calls for a little bit of cameraman participation. And you can see that it's almost a foot high. So it's quite a big lump. I should say right away that that's not me in there. Although if you knew me, I'm not much bigger. I'm sort of 5.5 feet tall, so and shrinking as I get older, I should point out. But there it is. There's a driver. The driver is an extra as well. Lots of extras with these things. They don't come with a driver. If you want one, you have to buy one. But there we are. Now, because you can buy so many accessories for them, these things they're never really finished. This one is slightly less finished than it was a week or two ago. It was subject to a brutal attack by a puppy. We do have puppies here from time to time. And although that wasn't captured on video, we do have a Crime Watch style reconstruction for you to look at now, just in case you were in the area and may have seen something. So just while we're looking at the front of this model, we'll have a quick look at the grille here. And to give you an idea of the complexity, there are about 30 to 40 elements that make up the main grille that you can see there, and about another 30 to 40 elements in the lower bumper section as well, with the lights and the screws and everything else. So clearly these are not models necessarily for the beginner in our hobby. So does it come with instructions? Yes. About 45 pages worth of instructions. Every single component on this truck needs building. What you get when you buy one of these, even if it's just a basic kit, is a collection of nuts and bolts, parts of plastic, and what you need to put one together is a lot of time, a lot of patience, a clear working area, and be prepared for the odd setback. So looking at the rear portion of the chassis, here we've got the electronics control unit, because this particular one has sound and lights in it, and I'll take you through that shortly. On this side we have the model of the fuel tank. We've got a fifth wheel with a wire hanging loose because I still haven't quite figured out how that works. Obviously the rear wheel arches on both sides heading through to the rear lights, and in the middle of all this there are two parts of the chassis, and this is what's known as a ladder chassis construction, because these two pieces of metal run from the back right the way through to the front of the model and have cross members and other components attached to them, and that's where the name ladder chassis comes from. So the best way for me to give you a brief glimpse of the electronics on this is to switch to my mobile phone, and we're working our way along the chassis now to the cab of the vehicle. And it looks very messy, and I know that some of you, and probably especially our good friends at Chadwick Model Railway, are having a slight tremor at the state of this. It isn't finished, and the wiring will be tidied up at some point, but it's important. You'll see these little tags on here. It's important to label these as you're putting this together, because otherwise fault finding becomes impossible. And I do have an element of fault finding to complete on this model, even though it runs. This green wire here, whoops, there we go, this green wire here that runs to the fifth wheel is supposed to be controllable from the remote control module, and I haven't quite achieved that yet. So there's an element of work still to do in order to get this truck up and running properly, and this servo here, which would activate with the fifth wheel, is still not perfect. So a lot of wiring involved. This is quite hard for me to show you without taking the entire cab off, but mounted on the back wall of the inside of the cab is MFC03, and that is the sound and chip module for this particular truck. It has sound, it has lights, and it even has a vibrating unit in there that makes the thing vibrate when it's running, and that was all jammed in to quite a small space in the roof of the cab. So, am I running it down? No, not at all. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's one of my most treasured possessions. Putting this together bit by bit, and it took a long period of time, has been one of the most satisfying experiences of my model making experience. So why buy one? Well, why not? Worked most of my life, why shouldn't I have one? That's one reason. Also, if you want to push yourself as a modeler, this is certainly something that's going to do it, believe you me. Having built this, and having built a certainly part of the drivetrain the wrong way and starting from scratch, I can testify here and now this will test your modelling. Well, that about wraps it up for this video. Many thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this brief glimpse into Tamiya trucking and remote control modelling. If you'd like to know more, I'll leave a link on the screen and in the description to one of the most popular YouTube channels on Tamiya and remote control. That's it. Take care, stay safe, and as always, bye for now.